Hey, welcome everyone. This is the Power Query Live. We are going to show you how to use M in Power Query. So let me know in the chat where you guys are from, and let's get started. Now, I've got some light music in here. If you want me to turn it off or turn it low, just let me know. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create some list functions. So you can see right now we are in Power BI, but this works in Power Query for Excel as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list function for dates. Okay? So I'm going to create a blank query by going to new source, blank query. Let's put in the list function called list.dates. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Now, what we're doing here is we have a date that starts at 12/31/2011. That 5 is saying that we want 5 days from the starting date, and the duration is we want 1 day in between each date. So this is what we get. We get the starting date, which is 12/31/2011, and 4 days after that date. Let's try another list function. I'm doing the basic list functions first so you can get comfortable with it. So let's delete this. Oh, we'll just create a new query. This time I'm going to use list.count. So what list.count does is it simply counts the items that are in the list. So you see we have 3 items in the list, 1, 2, 3. So when we press the checkbox, we should get 3. And we get 3 right there. So if we were to add another number, let's say 4 or 5, 6, 7, let's add up to 7. And we get 6 numbers because we don't have 4. We have 6 numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. If we added 4 here to our list, now we have 7 items in our list. Now let's look at the list that contains all. So I'm going to create a new query. And so the list contains all function. What it does is it looks at the list and it takes another list and evaluates the items that are in the second list to see if they're in the first list. And if all the items in the second list are in the first list, you'll get the result of true. So 3 and 4 are in the first list. So we should get true here. And we do. Now, if we were to put a number that was not in the first list, like say 57 or 47, when we evaluate it, we get false because 47 is not in our first list. Now let's look at a function called list.matchesAll. So I'm going to create a new query. It's called list.matchesAll. And what this function does is it evaluates the list. So we have a list containing numbers 1, 2, and 3. And it's saying if each of the items in the list is greater than 10, then it's going to get a true. Well, 1, 2, and 3 are all less than 10. So that's why we have false. If we were to change this number from 10 to 0, we would get a true statement here. See how that works? So that's the list.matchesAll. Now let's look at the function called list.removeItems. So we'll create a new query. This one's called list.removeItems. So we have our first list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, and 5. And what we want to do is remove 2, 4, and 6 from the first list. And that's our result right there. We have a new list containing 1, 3, and 5. So that's how the list.removeItems works. Now let's look at how we can create some custom functions. So the first function that we're going to create, we're going to add 2 columns and get the sum of those two columns. So to create a custom function, I'm going to go to new source, blank query. This time I'm going to go to the advanced editor. So this is going to be our function that creates a sum column for two columns that have numbers. Let me just put this down here. So let me explain how this works. All right, so we have a function called get_sum. We have two parameters. The first parameter is called, or the first variable is called first_number, and it's at a number type. And we have a second underscore number as a number type. And our formula on the right takes those two variables and adds them together. Now you know it's going to be a function when you see that FFX symbol over here on the left. Now if we want to just do a manual check to see if our function works, we can just put in numbers here. So I'm going to put in 14 for the first number and 18 for the second. And when I press invoke, we should get 32. And we do. Now, what we want to do is we want to create a table that has a list of numbers. So let's do that. I'm going to go to enter data. I'm going to call this, so we call it column 1, that's fine. I'm going to put in some numbers here. So 13, 18, 37, 45. All right, for column 2, I'm putting some numbers. 57, 23, 15, 18. I'm gonna hit OK. So we have a table with two columns, column 1 and column 2, and they're both numbers, data types. So now I want to use our custom function that we created. So to do that, I'm going to go to add column, invoke custom function. I'm going to call this the column name total. We need to select our function name. It's called query 6. So we have the first number, we're going to map it. The first number that was our variable in our function, map it to column 1. The second number, we're going to map it with column 2. We press OK. And now we have applied our custom function. So 13 plus 57 equals 70. 18 plus 23 is 41. 37 plus 15 is 52. And 45 plus 18 is 63. All right. So now let's try to create another custom function so you can get some more practice. I'm going to create another query. Let's go to Advanced Editor. This time I'm going to get the average. So this will give me the average of 2 columns in a query. And this time I'm going to change the function name. I'm going to call it get average. All right, get average. So again, we could put in, let's say 10 for the first number, 34 for the second. We press invoke, we get an average of 22. But we want to apply that function to our existing table right here. So once again, let's go to the Add Column tab, invoke custom function. Let's call the column name average. Select the function name, get average. Map the variable first number to column 1, the second number variable to column 2, and press OK. And now we have an average of the first 2 columns, column 1 and column 2. We can change the data type, of course, so it's a whole number, just like this. Are there any questions so far? All right, let's do another custom function. This time I'm going to create a function that will multiply a number by itself. So we have a variable called the number, and it's simply going to multiply a number that's supplied by the user and multiply that number by itself and give us the output. So let me just straighten this up a little. So this is what the query should look like, or the function. So if I put in, let's say 15, press invoke, I get 225, because 15 times 15 is 225. Now let's use that same function and apply it to our table. We're just going to use column 1 this time. So add column, invoke custom function. I'm going to call it product. And it's query 7, column 1. So it's going to multiply all the values that are in column 1 by itself and give us an output. Press OK. And here's our result.